I'll just hold it right here and ask questions. The questions will be about Ukraine and especially about Crimea. As we know, Turkey has some interests in Crimea and there are some points of view in Turkish parliament about this problem. Can you briefly express the points of view in Turkish parliament about the Crimean problem?
In the Turkish parliament, vis-à-vis the crisis in Ukraine, to be frank, there is not much informed debate. And the only debate revolves around the Crimean issue. And that has a lot to do with the Ottoman past and legacy, which is, of course, a very narrow angle to approach the crisis in Ukraine. And from my point of view, Turkish approach to Ukraine should be not focused solely on Crimea, but should be within the framework of global politics. In the end, Ukraine is a country, just like Turkey, trying to become a member of the European Union and trying to anchor its democracy, its markets, its institutions in the transatlantic alliance. And so for Turkey, the plight of the Ukrainians to be able to join a transatlantic alliance should be one that the Turks can empathize with, can be concerned about, beyond just the narrow Crimea issue. But because Turkish politics is quite short-sighted and self-centered, it's quite difficult to imagine that these broader issues, these broader questions will be central to debates around Ukraine in Turkey.
But just after the annexion of Crimea, some Turkish politics, I'm not sure, maybe even Prime Minister, made some statements about not maybe sanctions against Russia, but some actions which would make Russia feel not happy. Something about Bosphorus, something about economical activities. And is it now possible for Turkey to somehow, together with Ukraine, maybe together with European partners, to press against the Russian Federation? Is it the point of view which is in the parliament? Does politicians think about it?
Now, the question is this simply an issue about Crimea and about Turkish and Muslim minority in Crimea, or is this a greater issue, a bigger issue about Ukraine? From my point of view, it's of course the latter. And the Turkish reaction so far has been centered around this narrow issue in Crimea, which means it's not very comprehensive, it's not a long-term and global interest. And if we consider the structural limitations on Turkish reaction to Russia, that is, Turkey is energy dependent on Russia, Turkey has this nuclear reactor project with Russia, Turkey is quite dependent on Russian tourists. It means that Turkey does not have much
flexibility
room for action, much flexibility, which means I would expect the Turkish government to be mainly concerned with this narrow question of Crimea, since it's good symbolic politics for the domestic audiences, and it can simply be at the level of rhetoric. But I think that it's quite difficult for Turkey to put actions behind its words because of the special relationship it has with Russia, plus its failure to think in a wider framework of global politics.
And did representatives of Crimea Tatars like Jamilov came to Turkish parliament? There were some panel discussions or some did he make some statements, or representatives of Crimean Tatars made statements?
The concerns of the Crimean politicians and opinion leaders have made it to Turkey, both by themselves and also by the Crimean diaspora in Turkey. And it is a strong voice in Turkey, and it is a voice that the average Turkish citizen is very attentive to. And that's one of the reasons why the Turkish government has dealt with this issue, and it will continue to deal with this issue because it's a very important symbolic policy issue. But on its own, it will not be enough to formalize a comprehensive Turkish response to the Ukraine crisis, the Ukrainian crisis. And that's my comment all along, that Turkey needs to think beyond the narrow issue if it is going to have sustainable and significant involvement with the crisis in Ukraine. And so far, I don't see that happening.
Okay, leave the Crimea alone. Let's speak about the reforms which Turkey Republic made in 1920s with Atatürk, and with really wonder when the economy of Turkey just jumped above all expectations. How do you think, is it possible in Ukraine now? Because we are such open-minded after Maidan, after this runaway of Yanukovych to Russia, and people are really willing to change something. How do you think, is it possible in Ukraine, reforms like in Turkey, and what do we need to realize it?
Reform necessitates, I think, two factors. One is the domestic drive, meaning Ukrainians wanting it, standing behind it, and moving forward. But the other one is a global, international perspective, meaning Ukrainians can only succeed if there is strong international community support on its right to exist, on its right to independence, on its right to pursue free markets, liberal democracy, rule of law. And only if these two come together, then we will be able to talk about a success story in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And so far, the world community seems concerned, but it's not doing enough. It's not able to do enough. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure the Ukrainian citizens are quite frustrated at this point. And so the question is, how does one translate those frustrations, those energies into proactive, positive steps for building an inclusive, free and liberal Ukraine. And so it's going to be, I think, a long and difficult journey.
Yeah, some of Ukrainian citizens, think that military generals, like in Turkey, could take a responsibility to reform the country and to clean the corruption, to make zero tolerance to corruption, and to unite beneath the Russian threat, really. And so maybe the military could do that. How do you think? Is it possible in ex-Soviet country or not?
I think in today's world and in today's global economy, mm-hmm. The only way forward with democratic governance, with a knowledge economy, with inclusion and multiculturalism is if it's based on civic initiatives, if it's based on grassroots initiatives. Military solutions are often, they appear very attractive, they appear very effective, but they can never provide sustainable, comprehensive, long-lasting solutions. Because in the end, democracy necessitates democratic individuals, democratic communities, and democratic polities. And there is no shortcut to that, and there is no cutting corners, and it will have to be a tiresome and long journey, and it will be up to the Ukrainian citizens, civic initiatives, grassroots initiatives to do it, and to empower individuals. Of course, we need individuals, we need institutions. Institution building is very important, so it's going to be a balance between the two. How to build institutions, inclusive institutions, accountable institutions in Ukraine, and how to make sure that we have the agency, that is, we have the Ukrainian citizens with the right civic attitude, with the right grassroots involvement, working within and around those institutions to bring a success story in Ukraine to reality.